Welcome back to Share from Our Hearts. We're glad to be talking with you about who we are as a station and how we are making a difference in the community in our neck of the woods here in Illinois. And one of the ways we do that is we are the voice for others who need to get the word out to tell you their story. In particular, in this time, we wanted to focus on a very serious and sober need, and that is the Christians in the Middle East that are going through so much trials, trauma, and persecution. With us from a group called In Defense of Christians is Ninar Keirus. And Ninar, we are very glad that you've joined us. Tell us a little bit about your organization and what you're trying to do on behalf of Christians in the Middle East.
Thank you, Rick. It is a pleasure to be with you as well. We are In Defense of Christians. This is a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization based in Washington, D.C. We are an advocacy and awareness group whose mission is to protect and preserve Christians and Christianity in the Middle East. We've been around for almost 3 years, and we just concluded a 3 days national advocacy convention just last Friday. So we, as you know, the issue of the plight of the Christians has been really on the rise and more in the media lately because of ISIS, but the persecution goes way back longer. And we've been trying to help by raising awareness in the American public, with media, and politically speaking, by advocating for them, and for trying to get their policy makers defend them and make the right choices. And so far, this is what we've been achieving. So last year, not this convention, last year at the Mobilizing of America for Christians in the Middle East convention that we had Congressman Fortenberry introduce HCON 75, a genocide resolution that declared that the atrocities committed by ISIS against Christians in Syria and Iraq were actually a genocide. And then we worked through advocacy on the Hill and through our members, who I can tell you a little bit more about later. We worked with them to get this bill passed, to get congressmen to support it and sign it, and it passed unanimously. This year as well, the title of our convention goes beyond genocide. And why is that? Because, as you know, Secretary of State Kerry declared the genocide, declared that indeed what is happening to Christians in Syria and Iraq is a genocide. And that also happened after we have been requested by the State Department to submit a genocide report to prove this. And we have actually worked alongside the Knights of Columbus to present that document. It was a 300-page document that we gathered through partner organizations we work with in Syria and Iraq. And once we submitted it in last March 2015, 3 days later, the U.S. declared the genocide. And this is only the second time the U.S. declares a genocide, as you know. So this is why the convention this year had a title, Beyond Genocide. Okay, now that the U.S. has declared the genocide, what next? What should we do? Time is ticking. People are still dying. And not enough coverage is being done about that. Not in politics, not enough laws, not enough legislation. And also, once a bill is passing or once a genocide is declared, not enough is done based on that as well. Then there's raising more and more awareness so that we can tell people what they can actually do. So this is why this year we are advocating for 4 policies, and I can briefly state them for you. But
yes, go ahead and just give us the
really
one or
very
two.
Important.
Yeah, give us the 1 or 2 most important things. I want to say real briefly for our listeners, we know we've heard of militant organizations, but there's Al Qaeda and Taliban, Boko Haram, and now we know probably the strongest and probably one of the most militant is ISIS. And it sounds like, Nina, this is the group, as well as others. These are militant radical groups that are just wreaking havoc and not only not caring about Christians, but actually killing them because they are Christians. Is that correct?
True. I mean, in fact, when Mosul fell in Iraq, this is how they labeled their homes. They labeled them with the Arabic letter Nun that represents Nazarenes, so people followers of Jesus Christ. And Mosul, since July 2014, it's for the first time since 2,000 years empty of Christians. The churches are all destroyed. I mean, we've been really we closed our convention with a film that was done in Syria and Iraq, a documentary through the eyes of an American Assyrian activist who's a school teacher in New York, and it shows really the atrocities committed. She's talking to all the Christians there and speaking to them, and they tell you their story. We've been on location in Iraq and in Lebanon helping the refugees there. So the most important resolutions, I would say, are one for Christians and other minorities in Iraq. It is HCON Resolution 152 that was also introduced this year, just last week at our convention, by also Congressman Fortenberry. It is about the Nineveh Plain province. So what is it about? It's about creating a safe zone for Christians and other minorities in the Nineveh Plain. And this, not to be misunderstood with creating a new state for anyone, Dick. This has always been a part of Iraq, ancient Iraq, and even modern Iraq that was habitated by Christians, Assyrians, Chaldeans, Syriacs. This was always their province. So it's just taking them back there. You have no idea how many thousands of Christians from Syria and Iraq are refugees and displaced all over the Middle East.
They've lost their home, they've lost everything, haven't they?
They lost everything. Their kids are missing on education. They live in Iraq. We visited them. They live in northern Iraq in Erbil in camps. Kids are not going to school. Women are traumatized. They've been ISIS slaves. Families are scattered and missing members. They don't know where their husbands are, their brothers are, just like the Yazidis.
Yes.
Same in Lebanon. In Lebanon, they're not benefiting from the refugee status of the United Nations because they are too scared to live in any camp or among any other refugees because of radicalization. So they go to their local churches in Lebanon. They live among communities. They work even if illegally, but they get by, and they have to meet the same Lebanese standard expenses, which are very expensive, and also missing on education and everything because it's a small country that cannot do much for almost 2 million refugees, which brings me to the second resolution.
Yes, go ahead.
And it's a Lebanon resolution. Why is it important? Because another forgotten story from the media and the community worldwide and in the U.S. is what's happening in Lebanon. If you think of it, everyone's attention goes to the Syrian refugees, those crossing the sea to Europe and drowning, and that is a terrible, terrible crisis and
Clearly
very tragic. But also in Lebanon, there are 2 million refugees, Syrian refugees in the country, in a country of 3.5 million population. That's more than 50%, and it's adding to its political crisis, it's adding to its economic crisis. So the HCON 852 is for the security and stability of Lebanon and its political and Syrian refugee crisis. And why is it important? Because to help balance Lebanon, the solution to this is actually have a safe zone for them in Syria so that at least these refugees can return to a safe zone in Syria.
They need that so bad.
So it's all for the benefit of everyone.
Yes,
and I would like to highlight a very important point for your listeners. Why is this important for Americans? Okay, first of all, it's a matter of national security. Terrorism is spreading. We've seen it reach Europe. We see it reach, everywhere. So, and you cannot host all refugees. So for these two things, you need to keep a balanced Middle East. And to have a balanced Middle East, you need to keep Christians and Christianity where it all began. You need to keep it over there. It's not about finding a solution and saying, let's bring everyone here. You can't do that. First of all, you can't really bring everyone here. Second of all, it's their homeland. They belong there. They were always contributor of peace and culture and education through their missionaries, through their hospitals, taking in everyone.
That's where they want to
everyone.
Be. That's where many of them want to be. They want to go back to their homes.
And they do. And exactly, I was just going to say, we've met with them in Lebanon and Syria and Iraq, and they all want to go back home. They just wanted to be safe. They needed to be safe for them to return home. So, and you wouldn't want a Middle East empty of Christians because it will remain unbalanced and it will remain sensitive and vulnerable to the extremism now that is spreading in the name of Islam, or that is spreading from Islam. It was not always the case since forever.
Yes.
So for a balance to return to the Middle East, you need to keep Christians there. Plus, it's their homes. So this is why it's important for American public to know about that and to say, why do we care and why should we help them? It's also important because it is in the interest of the U.S., whether it's U.S. interest in the region or here, as I said, national security.
Nina, I know that.
How they can.
Nina, I want to interrupt if
Yeah.
I can. I truly appreciate everything you're hearing, and I wanted to ask you what we can do as Christians. I know many of us want to pray, but we need to take action as well. How can we tell us about your website and how we can go there, and what can we learn from the things that you're doing in defense of Christians?
Well, thank you for asking this very important questions, because it is amazing. You would think it's impossible to do something facing all this tragedy and terrorism, but there are very easy steps so that every individual helps. You can join IDC chapters. If you go to our website, indefenseofchristians.org, you can either join an existing chapter in your city or in your state, or you can start one. And you can also, follow us on social media, where you can learn more about what's happening in the Middle East. What chapters do and why is it important to one or start one? Because you will start meeting members of the community, the Christian diaspora community, or also you would be who we need to help us, because we are also, building a bridge to the Christian American community.
Yes.
Now, what can the people do? They can, whenever we are pushing for a resolution to be signed or to pass, we would launch online petitions. We would send you emails and tell you through simple steps. You can just, by a few clicks, contact your local representative and ask him to co-sponsor this or that bill. We would have everything written out for
Very
them.
good.
And all they have to do, is through a few clicks, contact the representative to sign a bill. This is when it comes to advocating. Then you can also do many events in your communities, just like our existing chapter is doing. You can do a screening for the films we do and we bring for the region. You can raise awareness in church. We have tons of documents that we share with our chapter members.
Very good.
And, you can also adopt a church based in the Middle East, that through our teams over there, we can raise some donation and send them to them, and you can donate to the people through IDC website and to IDC as well.
Very good.
We need also to sustain ourselves. There's many things any person can do to help, whether through a chapter or even without being through a chapter. But it helps to be part of a chapter, because then you'll get more help. You'll be part of a team.
Nino,
And,
this is a cause that needs to be picked up by many Christians. As it is our brothers and sisters on the other side of the world. They're going through terrible tragedy. For us, it's a small matter here in America compared to what they're going through. And I want to encourage our listeners to go to In Defense of Christians. That's plural, correct? indefenseofchristians.org. And we've been
Correct.
talking with Nina Kerouz, and she has been a wonderful spokesman about helping us to understand how Christians in the name of Christ are being killed, they're being displaced, they're losing their jobs, their livelihoods, hope in so many ways. All they have left, and this is everything, of course, but all they have left is their eternal vision for who they are as Christians before their Lord. And I really appreciate, Nina, that you've helped us to get another small glimpse and give us many good opportunities. They do a lot of advocacy with the House and the Senate. It is our privilege as Christians to be able to ask our representatives, our senators, please support bill or resolution so and so. And you can find out information about that from the good people at In Defense of Christians. They keep us up to date on that. And again, I just want to emphasize your website is indefenseofchristians.org. And Nina, I really appreciate
.org.
Yes.
And please sign up to the newsletter, so that anyone, they should sign up to the newsletter so they start receiving our alerts and our news about what legislations are being,
Very good.
The talk of town, as we say in DC, and how they can help raise awareness. And then we will follow up with them, however they want to be involved, and guide them how they can help.
Very good.
Guide them and help them to to find themselves and what they can do.
One more good way how Christians can see how WJLY is helping to get the word out. I want to do some more conversations with you later on, and our listeners need to know that this is how we take this as our responsibility to let you know so that you can be a part of the worldwide effort to declare and to keep safe Christians who declare the name of Christ. Nina, thank you so very much for what you're doing, and keep up the good work and keep us informed.
Thank you so much.
Take care. Thank you.